Hello friends, now we're going to see how to create a Spring project to make an Ajax request and which returns a JSON objects back to the UI. So using Spring 3.0, then we have an Eclipse editor, and the important thing is you need to have JSON framework in the class path. So here I use Spring STS as a tool, as an editor, and then the Spring 3.0 framework, and it's quite simple. We can create this application in 5 minutes if you are good in understanding how the Spring 3.0 framework works. So I'm not going to tell anything deep on the Spring framework, but right now, if you are familiar with the Spring framework, this will be very easy. Otherwise, we need to go back and find how the Spring 3.0 framework can be configured. So this is a Spring source tool, and where we by default we get a Spring framework. What I already created the project here. What you can do is go create a new project, or that you need to select Spring template project. Then you have to select Spring MVC project, and then create a project just with a desired name. Which one? It's on your choice. But right now I have a project here. It's called JSON Ajax and REST. So I'm going to show you how to configure this. I have a Java file here, which is a controller. It's a configured controller. So the Spring framework will identify it as a controller class, and now it's named as Ajax JSON controller. So I have two methods here, two mappings. The one is for default mapping. So by default I'm going to call a home page, and this is another method which is a REST kind of REST framework. So the REST URL will be called, and just we get the message back, whatever we pass, and we'll append hello to that and return back. And for that, this is the framework configurable class. There you have a controller, annotated controller, and in the method level you have a mapping, which is the mapped value. So here I call this Ajax JSON request, and then you have a simple request goes get parameter which been passed from the UI, and then to the HTTP request. Now I'm going to append the string hello to that and return back, and that's all with the class file what we have here. So now we have to go back to the web application tier, where we have this web apps folder, under where we have the source, and then go to the web of we have some Spring dependency stuff here, and the configured over here in the servlet context.xml. And so we are not going to see anything on that, because when you create Spring projects, it's by default it gets generated. And if you see under views, I have a home.jsp which will be loaded as a default page, because you see here I'm going to return this home in when the page loads, when the application loads. So this page will be by default loaded. So here I have a form, a simple form, which has one text box saying that then where we type the message or whatever the text we type in the text box, and then hit the button. So this is an HTML button, and the on click he's going to call this method. This is an jQuery method, JavaScript framework. So we have a method URL which is pointing to the method which we configured just before in this class. So this is the configured framework path. So I mean the configured controller method mapping, and this is how we call the method from the UI. So this JSON is the application name, and Ajax JSON request is the method mapping. So once we call that, we're going to call it on a .ajax jQuery API. Then we call it as a type as a get type. So it's something like same as method level get and post, and then it's the URL, the method URL, which is hard coded here, and the next one is the data. What the data you're going to pass to the server, that is the form data, which is now identified using the element ID. So the ID is Ajax form, which is supplied here, and then we're going to serialize that. So this means this line of code means it's going to serialize the enter form, and it is identified as a data now. So it's like a serialized data. Now we're going to pass the function, and this function internally calls this URL and then pass the serialized data. So if it is a success message, you're going to see this JSON message ID over here. That's a span where I'm going to put this return message, and that's all. So right now I'm going to run a build. This is a Maven application. Hopefully I assume that you guys know how Maven works. I'm not going to even do that here. So we have the pom.xml. Let me open that. And the one configuration you have to add to this file is you need to add JSON. So this JSON will identify the JSON parameters, and then it can return back as a JSON format, like how the JSON format is. It just returns back the text. If you have any kind of map or something which you return from the Java class, it can give back in a JSON format. So right now I'm going to build this, and we'll see what happens. So just right click on that, run as Maven clean. Initially you're going to clean the project, then run the Maven install, which will install the WAR file right now because this is a web application. And once it runs successfully, then you're going to run this as run on server. I use a Fabric server, so this is a default server. Just need any just need a server which can support the JDB request response. So now I'm going to run this on that server. Alright, let's see. So what I have a small logger system.out.println, then that system will get print when I call this URL. So right now it's initializing the application. Yeah, here we go. So it's up and running. Yep. Now this is a text box which I was talking about, and we're going to type something in this text box and then hit this button. It's going to call this method, this function, JavaScript function, and then it's going to post this to the URL which is configured as a controller mapping, and then it returns the method back. Sorry. So let's see what happens now. So I'm going to type a name here, and they're going to hit this button. Let's see what happens. So we got the message back as hello John Doe. So this is a logger what we saw in the server. So this works fine. So this is a simple way you can make an Ajax request to the server, and the server is basically, I would say, a REST framework. Then it returns back the message as a JSON format, and the JSON format is being displayed into the user interface. So it's very simple. Just want to show you how the framework which can be configured to use in a simple application where you can use jQuery, Ajax, Spring Framework, and REST URLs, right? So hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let me know. I share my number, the email ID over here. So please go to that and reply to me. Thanks for watching this. Bye.